Hey everybody, it's Al with Longoriahaus Dog Training. Hope you are having a wonderful evening. My name is Al Longoria. This is Mandy Yates. She will be asking me questions. Then I will be giving you guys answers to the hottest dog training topic or any of the hottest dog training topics you guys might have. Hey, it's good to see everybody here tonight. Welcome again. If this is your first time watching, basically what we do is that you ask any type of dog training question that you have, and then I'm going to give you the best answer that I possibly can to help you with your dog. We've got several questions, but as always, we appreciate your questions too. And if this is your first time watching or you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It's got to be somewhere here on the screen. Please hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that way you get alerted each and every time we come out with a cool video. So anyway, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get right into the questions, but you guys feel free to ask questions as we go along. So Mandy, go ahead. What's question number one?
What type of training tool would you use on a stubborn, tiny poodle that's about 4.5 pounds?
Well, there's a lot of different training tools. I think the first, like if you're talking leashes or pressure tools, well, there's a whole bunch of them. But the one training tool that I probably would start off with working with a stubborn dog is that I would use their bowl of food. Using their bowl of food to leverage your attention is really one of the best ways to go about helping your dog understand that your voice and that you are actually important. Now, I'm going to go into a few of the other details about which tools I think that can actually help you, but I will always start every single training program for the rest of my life by taking up the dog's food. If you think about it, the food is money and your dog works for you, so to speak. So if your dog is not doing the things that you're asking it to do and you are giving the dog the bowl of food for free, then they are entitled to that. And then you do not get to ask them what to do because they have all the money. So with that being said, once you actually get the dog and you're transacting the things that you want them to do for their food, here are some things you should think about. So I probably would first recommend, and I've got one of these here with me, this is a slip leash. It's actually the slip leash was made a little wrong, but however, I've got another version. This slip leash right here is a very tiny one where I might actually, this is the type of slip leash that you might get. So when you're looking at these two, when you're looking at these two slip leashes, you got a 3/8 of an inch and a 1/4 inch. I probably, with a smaller dog, would start off with a 1/4 inch slip lead as opposed to the 3/8 inch slip lead. Just these past couple of weeks, I've been using these more on small breed dogs, and I'm actually pretty pleased with the results that I'm getting from a smaller braided slip leash. Now beyond that, you might be thinking like a prong collar, and slip leash may not actually be the best. If you put the slip leash on the dog and you're trying to teach the dog how to walk on a leash or how to go to their bed, and you're using leash pressure for that, if you're noticing that like your dog is choking against it constantly, like and they're hacking for it, and you're trying to be gentle but they're doing that, then you probably don't need to use that tool. So then this is where I would actually opt for a prong collar. Now, this prong collar right here, this is a small prong collar. I would not use the small prong collar because it's not going to really fit your 4 or 5 pound dog really well. They do make, and I say they, you can find out you can find on the internet that they make a prong collar that's actually smaller than the small, and it's called a micro prong collar. I got to tell you this, when you're working with a micro prong collar, it is a very powerful pressure tool, and you really want to operate it on probably a 3 to 4 foot leash, not anything longer than that, because it is such a strong tool. So all these tools, the slip leash, the prong collar, they can be pretty powerful, and if you're using them wrong, you could actually run into injury. So that's where I might actually further recommend a remote collar. Now, I don't have the remote collar here with me that I would recommend specifically for small dogs, but the one that I would be from eCollar Technologies, and it is called the Micro Educator. So you got the Mini Educator, the Educator, the Boss, this brand new one, which is called the Finger Trainer Educator, but they make a micro educator that is made for dogs and that size. It's made for dogs that weigh 5 pounds and less. So take a look at that. So there's a lot of different options. So start with food, look at the smaller diameter slip leashes, look at the micro prong collar, and then look at the micro mini educator, and that's where I would go. Okay, what's next?
Next is, how do I stop my dog from barking in the car?
There's a lot of different ways to go about solving the issue of having your dog bark in the car. And one thing that I'm noticing that people are doing is that they're rushing, like they put the leash on the dog, they have to go somewhere, and then they throw the dog into the back seat. And I'm not saying throwing the dog there, but they get the dog into the back seat. And that's really the extent of the information that they're giving the dog. Now, I personally, I'm going to tell you guys how I roll with my dogs. When I take my dogs anywhere, they're inside of a crate, and I drive SUVs and hatchbacks that allow me to do that. Now, I understand that not everybody drives a car like that. My number one recommendation is, hey, get an SUV, get you a hatchback, put your dog inside of a crate. That's going to help some with the barking. But the thing that really solves the barking is getting involved and showing the dog that, hey, we want you to be quiet in the back seat. As a matter of fact, this week I made a recommendation to a family that's going on a trip and their dog struggles with this. And I said, okay, well, you guys, you're a couple. One of y'all's going to be, driving the car, driving the vehicle. And then the other one's going to be in the back seat with the dog on a leash. And if you do that, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a period of time that you're going to struggle with the dog. But if you start to go back there together with the dog, you're going to be able to give them useful information. Now, I'll give you a tip of what I actually would prefer to do if you have a real serious barking problem. I would start taking daily trips, but my first trip would literally be to the driveway with the dog. And we would just go up and down the driveway or up and down our street to begin to teach the dog that we expect you to be in a down, on the seat, nice and calm as we're doing that. The crate will really help you if you're doing crate training in your home, but having a person back there showing the dog how to be calm. And then when your dog does bark, okay, you're going to have to use some kind of training tool to tell them that you don't want them to do that. But if you teach them to be calm in the first place, you might actually avoid the problem of barking altogether. Now, want to be careful because I've seen a couple of circumstances where people have had barking dogs, especially some of these larger breed dogs. And if your dog is already barking and you're thinking about going through a drive-through, I have heard of situations where people are passing food, to the window, and the dog's becoming very aggressive in those situations. So, really think about it. If you have a barking dog, if you're by yourself, don't try to go through a drive-through. In the beginning, make sure that you get some help to get the dog to be calmer. If you're all by yourself, the crate is going to be your number one friend. And if you need to get the dog to be quiet, then I would advocate either for the bark collar or the remote collar. Either one of those could really be useful. Okay, all right.
Okay, how should I keep my dog's teeth clean?
Well, I'll tell you, if you have a large breed dog, the way that I prefer to keep them clean is actually by playing tug with them. I look at Gabby's teeth, and man, those are like some of the best looking dog teeth I think I've ever seen. They're incredibly clean, and we're constantly, fetching a ball, playing tug, and doing things, and then also feeding her food that's actually, we feed some raw stuff as well, that's actually going to grind and kind of keep the teeth clean. Now, it's interesting when I'm saying this, and I look at Fritz, and Fritz maybe his teeth aren't as clean as Gabby's are, but I just think because we're not playing so much tug. So with your dog, think about playing games of tug where they're actually getting stuff in their teeth, and you're having to loosen that stuff up. That's one really good way. Now there's a lot of other ways. I'll give you another way that I actually personally use. I love bully sticks. I think they're pretty good. It's a little bit of a pricey treat for a dog. About a meter, about a 3 foot long bully stick is about $20 is the price that I've been paying. And that does a pretty good job of actually helping. Now, there are some other products out there. One of the main concerns that I have about keeping dogs' teeth clean is some of these products that are out there actually have a lot of plastic in there So you're giving the dog these chews, and some of these chews are all natural, but some of them have a lot of plastics. And yes, that plastic will scrape the dog's teeth and keep them cleaner. However, I'm not a fan of putting more plastic into my dog's system. So really, maybe you want to consider avoiding that. And obviously, that's the type of stuff that you're gonna do on a daily basis to try to keep them clean, playing tug, giving them raw bones, giving them bully sticks to chew on. But the other thing you could do is go to your veterinarian, and you should go probably once a year if your dog has issues, maybe every 6 months, and get those teeth cleaned. Mandy, do you have any input here, or do you have a dog? You have a dog that kind of has some teeth problems.
Yes.
What do you think? Like, is that kind of a genetic thing with the dog? Though,
I mean,
right?
I think so. I do think genetics play a big part because I have Dachshunds, and a lot of small breed dogs are prone to bad teeth, but especially Dachshunds. You do need to get them cleaned once a year. I do know that it could get bad enough. I had a foster dog one time that her mouth was so bad that infection actually spread to her heart.
Oh, wow.
And caused heart failure. So it's pretty serious. Like,
yeah. So find a way, whether it's playing tug, whether it's raw bones, bully sticks, and if you can't do any of those things, or if you're doing all those things and you're still kind of struggling, definitely get to your veterinarian. Your veterinarian will be qualified.
I mean, they'll sell you a toothbrush and all this stuff. I know there's stuff you can add to their water.
Okay.
It's for tartar control. I've tried that, but
yeah,
it's really hard to, once you get that plaque buildup on there, even the cleanings, they just pull the teeth. They don't actually clean it off. So it's really just, I guess you need to try to be diligent about the amount of plaque buildup. And
well, like I said, we're playing tug. I think a rope toy is a fantastic thing, because you think about what a rope toy is. It's just a big strand of dental floss that's going to get in there. One of the things that I'm thinking about right now, that I've had this question asked in sessions before, is that if you got the dental floss, like we're playing tug, and then all of a sudden you see blood. And I'm just going to tell you, I think that's pretty normal. Heck, man, I know when I floss my teeth, I'll see a little bit of blood every once in a while. Not a dramatic amount.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually heard that that's healthy.
Yeah.
It's like flushing out whatever might be in your gums.
Now, hey, we're not veterinarians for sure. Okay, I'm not a vet. We've both had dogs. The majority of our life. I don't think I've ever asked you that. How long you've had dogs?
I mean,
forever,
I grew up.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've had dogs for a long time, and so no, we're not veterinarians. But I really think that playing tug with a rope toy can really help your dog. Giving them chews on a daily basis, and if you think about what causes plaque, it's a lot of sugar. So looking at how much carbs are in their diet and trying to minimize that, but while still keeping a healthy amount of carbs in there is a good way to go.
Yeah.
And hey, for everybody that's watching tonight, hey, we just really appreciate each and every one of you. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for your attention. It really means a lot to me. If you don't know who I am, my name is Al Longoria. I'm a dog trainer in the Houston area. I've been helping families for close to a decade now raise happy and reliable dogs. We do a lot of different things, but we appreciate each and every one of you. Hey, if you're one of my clients that's watching, or somebody that's regular to the channel, thanks so much for watching tonight. If I could ask anything of you, would you hit that thumbs up button? And hey, just say, hey, I'm watching. Just let us drop a comment down below and say that you're here, or just, we'll take any comment.
Yeah, because we can't see who's watching.
Yeah, I can't, sometimes we do these on Facebook, and so when we do them on Facebook, we can say hi to you guys as you're watching. So we do see some of you guys are watching. Please say hello. It would mean a lot. It would mean
Hi,
a lot to me.
Mama Longoria.
Yeah. Okay. So my mom is watching, guys. Okay. So help a guy out. Help a guy out and say hello. Say hello. Throw a thumbs up there. But we really appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you have friends that could benefit from this, it would mean the world to me if you would share this video with them, and maybe they could get some value out of it. Maybe they're struggling with their dogs. But please drop your comments. Give us a thumbs up if you can, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We would definitely appreciate it. Okay, so what's next?
Next is, how do I stop my dog from growling?
Growling is, it's interesting thinking about growling because the one thing that growling is definitely a defense mechanism. The whole purpose of growling is to get
Deterred.
the whoever is coming in into the dog's personal space to get them to go away. A lot of bites are actually the same thing. So growling and biting, a lot of those are actually for the dog to create space. It's kind of like you say something ugly to somebody and you push them. It's analogous to that, if you will. So how do you get your dog to do that? Well, it's funny that you say this, and we get asked this question. What's about building trust? It's about building trust with you and your dog, and there's a lot of different ways to build trust. As a matter of fact, we dropped a video just this week talking about how to build trust with your dog. So I'm not gonna go over that again right now. But think about the relationship with your dog. Think about the things that are causing your dog to growl. Now, I do think you need to be smart and you need to create leverage for yourself. If your dog is growling at you, then they probably need to wear a leash more often than not, so that way you can actually get the dog to move without having to come up to their neck and grab their collar or something else. Begin to hand feed your dog. Show them that you're somebody worth valuing. Okay, so put that leash on your dog. Start doing that. But it's going to take some work to get a dog. Like I deal with some dogs that they see me coming and they're like, I really like being the dominant creature in this household, and I'm not going to let this guy tell me that my world has to change. And so I'll go ahead. They're going to growl at me. I would be that kind of dog. Yeah, they're going to growl at me. They're going to growl at me. They're going to nip at me. I got nipped at this week a couple of times, and so and I excused the dog. I gave the dog some mercy. He threw a nip at me, and I'm like, okay, I understand. Like I know that I'm in your personal space, and maybe you're not so comfortable with that. I'm like, that's fine. I can respect that. But what you got to do is maybe not correct them if they're nipping at you or growling at you, but maybe you need to start working with them and showing them what your expectations are and helping them to understand how good it is to actually live with you. But I have to draw the line somewhere. If a dog nips at me and I'm trying to help them and then they actually come after me, which is a little different, then you actually are going to get corrected. And you need to understand that you can never, ever, like a dog cannot aggress a human in general. I'm not saying that that's the rule, because obviously there are protection dogs and dogs should guard your property among other things, but your own personal dog should not be growling at you. But before you go to discipline your dog for growling at you and doing all that, you need to take a good hard look at yourself and see like, hey, am I doing something that doesn't build trust? That gets the dog to tell me I am intimidated by you and I need you to give me space. So you got to ask those hard questions. And if you're struggling with that, that's something that I can definitely help you sort out. Okay, what's next?
Next is, how should my kids pet my puppy?
Well, they should pet the dog slowly. Your kids should definitely be petting the dog as slowly as they can. But that's like asking, I don't know. That's a really difficult thing to ask a young child, is to pet a animal in a calm fashion. It's not easy. Like we coach this with so many parents and their kids, teaching their kids to actually slow down, and it's work. It's work getting a kid to slow down. So I have a tip here. So if you're going to get your kid to actually pet a dog, first teach them how to feed the dog with a flat hand. So have the food in your flat hand, bring the food to the dog's mouth. Now, if your dog is generally well-natured, but maybe a little excitable, this is the kind of dog that you can do this. But then after you bring the food in and the dog is eating some of the food out of the child's hand, then the child should gently stroke the dog's head. So feed the food, talk to the dog, good dog, and then begin to nicely and slowly stroke the dog. I don't know if you guys noticed this. I was just really thinking about this right now. When I'm in the live show, this is, pretty much the way that I talk when I'm in conversation with people. But if you ever notice in the videos when I'm working a dog, I sound completely different. It's almost like
when you're in the field, that, or
well,
when you're
when I'm working with when I'm working with a client's dog.
Yeah.
I'm literally never talk. I'm not talking at all. Maybe I'm talking to the clients, but I'm not talking to the dog. And
Yeah.
I'm very, very calm in those circumstances. So as you're thinking about your children, have them feed the dog, have them slowly pet the dog, and then as soon as the dog is done eating the food that's in their hand, then the pet goes away. And so that's that's going to be important. And start building on that. Once you see that your dog actually becomes calm, then your child can maybe try to pet. Here's a little pointer that I've given in the past, just talking about excited dogs and calm dogs. If you look at your dog right now, look over at your dog, and imagine your dog being as excited as they could, and that would be the number 10. And imagine your dog being the calmest that it could, and that would be a number 1. So if your dog is at a 4 or less, see if you can go over to the dog and just pet the dog, maybe and slightly excited, and see if they'll maintain that calmness. I kind of feel that when we look at excitement, if it's on the lower end, 4, 3, 2, or 1, that the dogs are actually going to be more tolerant of the things that we do to get them excited. But if your dog is 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 on the excitement scale, then it's going to be a lot harder for them to actually calm down. They're probably going to amp up very quickly. Now, some dogs do not calm down quickly, and it takes a lot of work to teach them that touch is a calming thing. Okay, I feel like I answered that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny with kids. It's like when little kids, they just they're.
You know what they do. You know what? So okay, put your hand out like this. So this is what a kid will do. Now, come try to touch my hand. The kids will do that. Like kids will come in and will be doing this kind of thing like that, and like
makes the dog.
Yeah, like and what I'm going to do, like they come and it's going to cut us off. They come over the top of. They come over the top of the head, and then right as the dog kind of throw a bite now, Mandy.
Oh yeah.
So as they come like this,
They
and the
get
dog
startled
they get
and-
startled and they go away. What I tell a lot of kids is that when you come to touch a dog, just put your hand on their shoulder and be real calm right there. But if you come in real tentatively and then the dog moves and you do that, then that almost assuredly is going to get the dog to want to chase you and to begin to play because
I
they
think it
think
makes
that
them
it's
a little
it's
nervous
kind of
too.
a game.
Like what's wrong? Yeah.
You look kind of funny right there. I'm
I'm sure I did. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, so bring those hands in slow. Teach you what you can do also with your kids is you bring the food up, you're dispensing it out of the hand, and then teach the kids to calmly touch teach your kids to calmly touch the dog's back and stroke the back from shoulders all the way down to tail. So that's a really good way of going about it instead of teaching your kid both at the same time. Like, hey, you have the food and that. Give your kids one thing to do. You bring the food, and then have your kid maybe put your hand on the back of their hand and say, put your hand right here, and then have them massage the dog. And I think that would be pretty useful.
Okay.
Okay, next.
Okay. So how do I ensure my dog protects the house when I'm not home?
Yeah, I'm going to give a lot of context here because I'm going to go kind of macro, just really thinking the big picture, like how do I make sure that that's going to happen? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get a dog from a reputable breeder that has multiple generations of protection dogs in the pedigree. Okay, so not everybody can do that. But that's the first thing that I'm going to do. If I want a protection dog, I want to know that my dog's parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents could do the work that I'm asking for. Okay, because that's going to give you the best chance. The next thing is you got to look at the breed. You got to look at the breed and make sure that the breed that you're getting has that kind of potential. There's some large breed dogs that couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. And there's some small breed dogs, man, that, oh boy, they will light you up. Okay? So the next thing is training. You got to teach the dog how to deal with that. There's a toy that we make. It's called a flirt pole. And I think the flirt pole is a really great way to introduce dogs to the beginning of protection work. The beginning of protection work, at least the way that I train them, is what's called agitation training. So what we do is we put the dog inside of a harness, okay, and the owner will hold the dog back in the harness. And then we'll take the flirt pole and we'll tease the dog with the leather rag that's at the end of the flirt pole. And that will actually get the dog excited because it kind of mimics a squirrel. It mimics prey. And so then the dog begins to see that. And then if they see that and they bark and we let them go, so they bark, we let them go, and then they get to play a game of tug with the leather on the end of the floor pole, then that's a positive feedback mechanism. It's positive reinforcement. The dog learns to bark. So all we do then, it's actually pretty simple. You have your dog in a harness, you have the person that has a floor pole, and you're just repeating the word watch him over and over and over until the dog barks. And then when the dog barks at the person with the floor pole, you let the dog go and they bite the toy. And then you start building on that. I would start there. But if you really want your dog to protect somebody, well, you have a dog, they're biting well, they're doing the things that you want them to do, then you ask a person that is qualified to do this to break into your home. So that way you can find out if your dog can actually do it or not. And if the dog fails, it's okay, because if they're biting, then you can probably get them to understand that they should. But if they're, if they bite well, then you've got it. Or maybe that's just too much for them. But you're really going through the process and figuring out, will they protect my house when I'm not home? Well, will they protect it when you're there? Will they protect them when you're there? And will they understand what to do with a bad guy? So then the next logical step, at least for me, is then you leave the house and you tell the bad guy to break in again. And you see, you record it on your iPhone or get a GoPro or something and see if the dog actually does what you want it to do, and then help the dog understand that's their responsibility, is to protect the home when you're gone. I can't really think of another way that you would do that. There's some dogs that will naturally protect homes, but most of them the vast majority of them that can do it have to be trained to understand the circumstance.
So they did a news program one time. They did a story, and they had several people who had dogs, and these people were interviewed. My dog will tear anybody up that comes in here. So they did that. They planted a camera and sent a stranger in these people's houses, and nobody's dogs did anything. They didn't even bark. And it was just so funny.
Well, and to further, and Mandy didn't work with me at the time, so we actually had a story on Channel 11 many years ago that's along the same line. So what we did is I had a buddy of mine that was helping me out, that he was a bad guy. We went into 2 homes where there was an untrained dog. One dog ran away, the other untrained dog nipped. But like nip, I mean like that much of a bite on my buddy. And then the last dog was trained. And the last dog was trained, but the homeowner was there. And when my buddy came into the home, my client sent the dog, and the dog fought my other buddy, the bad guy.
Okay. Were you all in suits?
We were wearing scratch pants, jacket, and we were also wearing
interesting.
we were wearing a sleeve, and so that was, I think, on Channel 11 maybe.
Maybe it was the same story I'm talking about.
Well, I don't think so, because it was like at the time. Like, we didn't really interview a lot of people. There was 3 families.
Okay.
There was 3 families. They were all clients of mine, and so we broke into 2, and then the last one, I guess you could, it had to be staged to some degree, right? Because we had to film it.
Yeah.
So, but the last one it was my client that did have a dog that knew how to bite, never had a home invasion before, but and the bad guy that we were using wasn't the bad guy that dog had ever seen. So,
well, here's the other thing that I hear, that dogs can pick up on people's heart rates and blood and stuff like that. So if someone's committing an actual crime, they're gonna have.
Well, there's a thing that there's fear sweat, and I don't know enough about it to speak. I don't know enough about it to give you a lot of detail. But there is fear sweat when you are afraid. You smell different, and if somebody's breaking into your home, they're probably pretty nervous. They're probably, the dog can most likely smell that coming off. And I think that's actually kind of instinctive, that some of these creatures that are predatory, like a dog and other predators, can actually pick up on that. Heck, we might even be able to pick up on it, but it's all subconscious. And so I don't know. I don't know about that, but I know that the world of scent is a huge part of the dog's world. It gives a massive amount of information to their brain. And so the dogs could figure it out like that. But if you really want to know if your dog can train or can protect your home, is test them and see what they do. And then if you don't like the outcome, then it's time to get to training and to help them to understand how to handle those types of things.
Okay.
Okay,
I
what's
will
next?
allow us to move on now.
Yeah, it's good. That's a
Okay.
good one.
How do I stop my dog from jumping over the couch to chase squirrels in my backyard?
You know, this is so funny. Jasmine, you guys probably can't see her, but Jasmine is the middle dog in this painting that's behind me. Jasmine, she absolutely loved the squirrels that were in my backyard. She would do anything. She would get anything, and we would say, like, "Do you want to get the monsters?" We would say that to her, and she would just get so excited. And so she would run, and she would run, and she would run into the door that's over here, run to my backyard, trying to get to them. And so, so how do you actually deal with that? Well, it's just like any of these calming exercises that we're recommending to folks is, you have to kind of create the situation or expect the circumstance where the dog is going to get excited, right? And then you probably have to have equipment in the beginning when you're trying to show them what it is that you actually want them to do. Because let's just say that you have your windows open, the dog is freely roaming inside of the home, you don't have enough voice control to be able to turn your dog around. Well, if your dog's on the couch, it sees a squirrel, the first thing is to jump over the couch to get to it, right? So how are you going to interrupt that process? Well, you got to interrupt that process by having some kind of control, whether physical or psychological. So I like for my dogs to chase squirrels in the backyard, but we really try to create a lot of control all the way up to the point of the back door before they get to go and do that. So I want you, if this is you, if you're struggling with your dog jumping over your furniture, treating it like its own personal parkour course, put a leash on your dog and start creating the circumstances where the dog is likely to get excited, and then begin to use your leash to control your dog and teach your dog that we're going to let you get the squirrel, but the only way you get the squirrel is by being in control of yourself. I changed my wording there as I was thinking that I was going to say you need to calm yourself. Don't calm your dog there. If you're going to give the dog the pleasure of chasing the squirrel, don't calm them. Focus your dog. Focus your dog. Get your dog to understand that your words here are the things that are ultimately going to lead to their ability to chase the thing they want. And this is again why I love the toy, the flirt pole, because it gets me to mimic the squirrel, and I teach the dog that my voice is the thing that leads to you being able to pursue prey. And I think that's really important. So a flirt pole, a leash, understanding the circumstance, but then for sure don't set yourself up for failure by giving your dog tons of freedom where they can't expect, like where they can just get away with it. You're going to have to be pretty diligent in the beginning if your dog is already jumping over couches to be able to get to that, but it is doable in my opinion.
Okay. So somebody asked if you charge more for multiple dogs.
Well, the answer is no. The way that I have the company structure, or at least the way that we structure our services, is, well, one, we want to give away as much as we possibly can. That's why we're here right now. We're trying to bring value to families and to their pets, and helping you guys have better relationship. But when it comes to my coaching services, where I actually coming into your home, I think my words might not be perfect here, but I never really care how many dogs are in the home. I really care about the humans. Now, if you're one person and you have 4 dogs, you're in trouble. That's like, I've been in situations where there's, one individual and 4 dogs. That is really very tough. You better, I'd like to meet you. If you're one person and you have 4 dogs and they're really well behaved, I would love to meet you, because that's hard. That would be hard for me.
I wish I could introduce myself right here.
Yeah, right.
We know that.
Yeah, we have you have 17 right now, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, Mandy has 47 dogs at her house right now because she's a hoarder. But
I'm a foster.
Oh, that's what the other name for foster. Foster, hoarder.
Anyone who's a foster knows it's the same thing.
So anyway, like I was saying.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, don't
if you meet a person with 4 dogs and you would like to.
So do I charge? Okay, no. So the question was, do you charge more for 2 dogs? The answer is no. I don't charge more for 2 dogs. I don't charge more for 3. I don't charge more for 5 dogs. The price that you see on our website, which is $5.99 for my 4-week course, which you can get even the 6-week course, which I think is an incredible value. That one's $7.99. I charge the same really, you know what you're paying for? You're paying for me to come in there and to watch what you are doing so I can help you to kind of sort out like, hey, this is where you're making the mistakes. You know, we ran this on Facebook and on Twitter this week. We actually said like, dog training is more about training humans than it is dogs. And that's really true. You know, there's some specific things that, yeah, you're going to have to spend a lot of time teaching your dog. But teaching humans how to actually manage all of that is really the work of a dog trainer. Dogs are incredible creatures that can learn so much, but when I come into your home, I am trying to help you to understand how to bring some leadership to your dogs and to get them to do the things that are going to bring more harmony. Now, yes, you're going to have to do a lot of work, and your dogs are going to have to do a lot of work, but we as the humans, as the leaders, have to take the responsibility for teaching them and for practicing with them the things that we actually want them to do. A dog's super intelligent, and I say this as a joke, but it really isn't a joke to me, that a dog takes 2 years to train and a human is a quarter of a century. You know, and heck, who knows if we even take longer to train than that, but a dog, man, they can learn all the things that they need to know in a relatively short period of time. And then you've got this best friend that has great manners, brings great companionship, and God, the closest thing to unconditional love that we have on this side of heaven. So, I don't know what to say, but yeah, we have one price for, we just charge one price. No matter how many dogs you have, the differences in prices have to do with the amount of time and how much help that you need from me.
Cool. Okay, someone wants to know if you use a seatbelt for your dogs in the car.
I personally don't use a seatbelt for my dogs in the car. I like to use their crate, but I have seen that there are some very good harnesses that actually attach to the tether points that they use for car seats, and those are particularly good. The thing that I'm always thinking about when I'm riding with my dogs in my vehicle is if I was to be in a serious accident with as much driving as I do, I drive about 800 miles a week here in the city. With as much driving as I do, if I had a dog inside the vehicle with me and I got into a serious accident, would the dog survive in anything other than a crate? And I just think that the crate gives them the best opportunity to survive something that could be a tragedy for me. So if I get in a serious accident and they're inside of their crate, I think the dog has a better chance of surviving. Where, like for sure, if your dog is in the back seat, good for you. Then yeah, your dog might not. But here's a big one: your dog should not be in the back of your truck. Okay, that's a surefire way to lose your dog. It just like you can be a superb driver, but you can't predict potholes and you can't predict everybody else on the road. So get your dog out of the bed of your truck. I understand if you're on your farm or your ranch or your pasture and something like that, that's a little bit different. But if you're on 59 or 45 or 290 and your dog is in the back to go a quarter of a mile, I just don't understand how. That's a bad risk. It's a bad risk, okay? Not to say that dogs haven't done this in times past, but man, this is a busy city, and it's just the back of a truck is no place for the dog. If they're in their kennel, it's a whole other thing. They're much safer. I've seen some really nice kennels in the back of trucks that are really impact resistant, but yeah, they shouldn't be back there. They need to be inside. I think they should be harnessed, but for the ultimate in protection, they should be in a custom-made crate in the back of your SUV, but there's some options there. Okay.
My dog is constantly knocking kids off their bikes and scooters and trying to eat their tires. Please help. He's a boxer.
Boxers do have prey drive, and I've known quite a few in my life that are very, very apt to doing that. And if this is your dog, I'm going to really recommend a prong collar with a 5 or 6 foot leash and begin to do leash training. If you're not really familiar with leash training, we've got tons of videos here on the YouTube channel that can show you how to start leash training with your dog. Of course, I can come and coach you and help you with that. But heck, man, just tether the dog to you, put the prong collar on the dog, put the leash around your waist, and start walking with the dog for the next 14 to 21 days with that leash tethered to you, and you will make a significant impact on how much your dog is going to start doing those things. Like, I just can't imagine any creature being tethered and continuing to do these really bad behaviors. You know, the bad thing is if you go, like, yeah, like your dog could get injured going after something like that.
Sure.
But boy, I can't imagine the size of the lawsuit whenever you knock a kid over and you break and you break one of their bones or something like that. And I can't imagine the stress that you're going to feel that, you know, you loved your dog and now your dog is being quarantined because it's being labeled as an aggressive dog when all it was trying to do was play with the kids on the bike. But it's inappropriate. Put them on a prong collar, put them on a 6-foot leash, tether them to you, or learn how to create some leash walking. But you know, that's the thing. If they're escaping your property and doing that, shore up your property line. Find a way to not give them access to that. But boy, I would tether them I would do leash training. Is what I would do right away. Okay.
Okay, my dog was previously owned by someone else. How do I change their name?
Well, it's not that difficult. You know, it's probably going to take you the better part of a couple of months to really get the effect that you're looking for. But the first thing that you'd want to do is obviously eliminate the other name. Okay, well, that's pretty easy. You're probably going to do that from the get-go. So, you know, don't use that name at all. The other thing is don't overuse the new name. So you probably, you know, the human thinking is, I really want them to learn their name. And let's just say that the dog's name is going to be Matilda, right? So you would just be Matilda, 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 as much as you possibly could, right? Well, wrong. Do not do that. You know, you need to associate it. We have a fantastic game that's called the Treat Toss game. It's in a video here on the channel. It's in the virtual reality playlist if you go through our playlist. But the Treat Toss game is actually one of the 2 ways that I would go about reassociating the dog's name. Pretty simple game. You put some food in your left hand. You throw a single piece of food at your front door inside your home. Your dog Matilda goes and chases after it, and the moment that she goes down to pick up the piece of food, you say Matilda. Then your dog, she hears her name, she turns around, you show her another piece of food that's in your hand, she comes running back to you, and you give it to her. And then you repeat that, you know.
That sounds like the best way.
Yeah, it's really a very, very easy way. You take their dinner, like, you know, if your dog is eating 2 or 3 cups, what is that, like 94 pieces of kibble or something like that? If not more, it's tons of pieces. So you throw one, they begin to chase it, and right as they put their mouth on the piece of food, you say their name. Bam, association, the dog gets it. They turn around because they're at the front door and it's closed and there's nothing else to do. Dog comes back. You give them another handful of food, tell them how happy you are. Maybe you say Matilda again at the moment they're eating the food. And you just repeat that. And you do it Monday, you do it Tuesday, you do it Wednesday. And you do that for several weeks. And then all of a sudden you're going to see, you say Matilda.
Take that long.
Yeah, probably not going to take that long. But you would just begin to associate the name into the things that, like, into the way that you want to use the dog's name. If you wanted to increase attention with the dog's name, well, you could ask a question like we do. We ask, are you ready? And then the dog looks into your eyes, right? And so right at that moment, you would say, Matilda. And then you would hand Matilda a piece of food. It's kind of the same thing. So what's the simplest thing you could do? If the dog is doing nothing, say your dog's name, Matilda, and then give it a piece of food regardless of what it did. You'll begin to make an association. I wouldn't do that one forever. I would really begin to make it a little bit more complex, teaching the dog that means to turn around and come back. But say the dog's name, give it a piece of food that you have that it wants, and you're going to win. All right, looks like we got one more. Great.
Yep. Last question we have is, my dog is territorial and also aggressive. He's also aggressive if we try to move him. How do we get him to be calm and easier to control?
You want to try to read that again so we can use that on the video? Maybe.
Okay.
What's this? Okay, so
my dog is territorial and also aggressive if we try to move him. How do we get him to be calm and easier to control?
Well, you know, it's some work. So if he's territorial, then that probably means that, you know, he's outside that they're outside. Well, it's not such a bad thing for your dog to, it's not such a bad thing for the dog to be territorial. One thing that we do with territorial dogs, if we're needing them to be territorial but to also listen, is we do long leash training. The dog will, run out to the fence. We have a 15-foot line on the dog with a training collar on there. Could be a slip collar, could be a slip leash, maybe a remote collar. And so the dog goes out there and they hear their name, and then we put some pressure on the line and ask them to come back. But if your dog is becoming aggressive when you're trying to ask them to move, well, this is where they've lost some privileges in their home. If your dog is treating you poorly, and like very poorly, by becoming aggressive with you, then you really got to look deep at yourself first and say, like, what am I doing that's fostering this kind of attitude towards me? Okay, and unfortunately, if you continue to go soft at the dog, if you continue to become softer and try to love them and cuddle them more, the more that they're probably going to begin to dominate you. Now, that's not every dog, but there's a subset of dogs out there that if you become real lovey-dovey with them and you're being real soft with them, and that they see your softness, they will take it for weakness. I'm not saying being kind to animals and being loving to them is a weakness, but if that's that dog's perception, then you've got to deal with that. Okay, getting a leash on them, getting a muzzle on them. Okay, and that could be pretty challenging. If it's really, really challenging, if it's really very challenging for you and you're afraid, then you need to call a professional to come in, like myself, and we will help you to be able to get started. One of the ways, and we kind of joke about this a lot, is that when I come into a home, it's kind of like the people are handing me their dog, and the dog is like a jar of.
Thank you.
Yeah, the thing's been after us.
Yeah, it's huge dinosaur mosquito.
Yeah, I have dinosaur. Like, I think I'm itching here because I think I got bit by one or something. I got stung by a bee today earlier too. It kind of sucked. Anyway, so the way that I kind of look at it is that, people hand me the really difficult dogs, and it's like a jar with a really, really tight lid. And then what I have to do is I have technique to be able to begin to loosen that lid, and then I pass the jar over to you. So if you're really struggling with a difficult dog and you don't know where to go, get a pro in there, get somebody that has a lot of experience and that you like what you see on their platforms, on their website, on their YouTube channel, their Facebook, their Twitter, any of those things that we use to market ourselves. Make sure you can see the type of work that they're doing, but get a pro in there, get them to begin to show you and give you some direction about what you need to be doing with the dog, and then get to work. But if you're continuing to be soft with your dog, and when your dog is being aggressive towards you, you got to quit being soft. You got to do a little bit of soul searching and say, like, hey, what can I do to make this better? It's not, and the loving thing there is to begin to create rules and create boundaries so the dog can learn that you are to be respected, and out of that respect, you can establish a new relationship that is a truly loving and healthy and harmonious relationship, because that's really what we all need and we all want with our pet dogs. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, that's all the questions. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, man, 10. Good. Yeah. And that took 50 minutes, so that's not bad. Hey, guys, I really appreciate each and every one of y'all that's watching this. If you're watching this in the future, if it's 3,000 years in the future or whatever it is, thanks so much for watching. This is Mandy. I'm Al. Jade is on the other side over there. We appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Have a great night. Talk to you later. Bye.